Hi, everyone. Welcome back. Thanks for joining me again today. I'm Corey. I'm an integrated attachment coach, which basically means that I specialize in using the principles of integrated attachment theory to help people understand and heal their attachment patterns. So, today we're going to talk about the anxious preoccupied attachment style and what that really looks like. So let's start by looking at some of the common characteristics for people that have this attachment style. So if you know someone who's like this, or if you identify with this attachment style yourself, you might recognize the traits of being charismatic, thoughtful, and kind. These individuals are often very warm and likable, drawing people in with their friendliness and genuine attention. In close relationships, they can be especially attentive, always tuning into the needs and emotions of others. They're even the type to move quickly in relationships, sometimes rushing to form deep connections with others. They crave closeness, and that desire for connection is at the core of how they interact with others. However, beneath these positive traits, anxious, preoccupied individuals often experience a range of emotional challenges. They can feel incredibly lonely and insecure even when surrounded by people. This insecurity might show up as anxiety or worry, and it can sometimes even turn into desperation, especially when they're unsure about the stability of a relationship. There's often a deep fear of rejection or abandonment, which can lead to feelings of regret or sadness. These emotions can create a roller coaster effect where moments of warmth and connection are followed by sudden drops into anxiety and doubt. But digging a little bit deeper, we see that at the heart of this attachment style are certain core wounds or limiting beliefs. These are beliefs formed in childhood, often as a result of inconsistent or unavailable caregivers. One of the most common beliefs is the fear of abandonment. There's an underlying thought that they will be abandoned or are already being abandoned. This leads to a sense of unsafety and the belief that they won't be able to rely on others when they need to. They might also think that they're unworthy of love or that they're somehow bad or defective. These beliefs can lead to a constant cycle of self-doubt and emotional insecurity. Because of these deep-rooted beliefs, people with this attachment style are often plagued by specific fears. One of the biggest is the fear of not being good enough, whether that's in romantic relationships, friendships, or even in professional situations. There's also a deep fear of rejection and failure, both of which can be devastating to someone with an anxious, preoccupied attachment style. On top of that, they might fear being disliked or excluded, which can make them feel invisible or unwanted. And worst of all, again, there's that looming fear of abandonment, whether it's being left behind by a partner or being suddenly fired from a job. The unpredictability of these fears can be exhausting and make them hypervigilant about the stability of their relationships. So, what do anxious, preoccupied individuals need most in romantic relationships? Well, they crave love and intimacy, deep, meaningful connections that help them to feel seen and understood. They need reassurance, validation, and approval to counteract their inner insecurities. They need to feel important to the people that they care about and to feel like they matter in someone's life. Consistency is also key. They need certainty and presence from their partners to be able to feel secure. This might look like frequent communication, a steady emotional connection, or simply knowing that their partner is truly there for them. They also crave inclusion and community, and they often want their relationships to feel collaborative, like a team where both parties are working together toward mutual support and understanding. Now, let's talk a little bit about how people with an anxious, preoccupied attachment style tend to handle conflict. First off, they often avoid conflict altogether, but not in a way that's quiet or passive. Instead, they're more likely to try to please the other person to keep things calm. So, for example, they might agree with someone's opinion even when they don't actually agree, just to avoid tension. But if there is conflict, they're quick to jump in and resolve it, doing whatever it takes to smooth things over. A key thing to note here is that these individuals are generally more focused on resolving the interpersonal issues rather than other issues. So, for example, if they're up for a promotion at work, but their best friend feels left out or overlooked, they might end up focusing more on repairing the friendship than considering the professional dynamics at play. Conflict also tends to impact them more deeply than some of the other personality types for attachment. So, what might seem like a minor disagreement to others can feel like a personal crisis to someone with an anxious, preoccupied attachment style. They feel distress at even the thought of losing connection, which makes them more flexible and willing to discuss issues and resolve the issue. Often, they're also great compromisers, but sometimes they can even be too willing to put their need for approval from others above their own personal desires or preferences. And because they fear the emotional fallout of a conflict, they might even prioritize managing other people's feelings over expressing their own needs or standing up for their beliefs. People with this attachment style also have some very specific needs in their relationships, especially when it comes to validation and reassurance. They need to feel seen and heard to feel like they truly matter to the people in their lives. This is why they respond really well to positive reinforcement. A compliment, a reassuring word, or even just a gesture of appreciation can go a really long way. In fact, these individuals thrive on being validated for who they are and what they bring to the relationship. They also need encouragement, both from their romantic partners and from friends or family members. So, for example, if they're working on a project or trying to make a decision, just knowing that others believe in them can provide a huge emotional boost for them. At the same time, they need to feel valued, included, and important in the lives of others. They also deeply crave certainty because the unpredictability of emotional needs can feel quite destabilizing. If their world feels uncertain, it can trigger their anxiety. This might look like someone constantly checking in with their partner to make sure everything is okay in the relationship because they fear any kind of emotional distance could mean the end. Then, when it comes to boundaries, this is where things can get a little tricky. People with an anxious, preoccupied attachment style often don't have strong boundaries in close relationships. They tend to prioritize emotional closeness and proximity over their own personal space. So, for example, they might have a tendency to overshare or lean too heavily on their partner for emotional support because they don't want to risk losing that connection. And then if someone they're close to starts setting boundaries, whether it's saying they need more space or simply even just saying no to them, it can feel like emotional abandonment or rejection. And this can lead to feelings of intense distress as it goes against their learned way of attaching to others. In some cases, these individuals might even sabotage healthy boundaries by doing things like becoming overly clingy or guilt-tripping their partner into being more available for them. They might not even realize the importance of having healthy boundaries to maintain a balanced relationship. They just know that without the closeness, they feel unsafe or unloved. When the emotional stress gets too high, people with an anxious, preoccupied attachment style often resort to coping mechanisms that are aimed at maintaining connection, even if they're not always the most effective. One of the most common is clinginess. They might try to stay overly close to a partner, trying to maintain constant physical or emotional proximity to them. Sometimes they might even try to provoke a response from their partner by making them a bit jealous, for instance, to get the reassurance that they're still cared for and wanted in the relationship. Another common tactic is testing, where they might say or do something just to see how their partner reacts, like telling them about an ex or suggesting that they're upset just to gauge if their partner will step in and reassure them. There's also a lot of attention-seeking behavior, from needing constant validation to expressing panic or anxiety about the relationship. For example, if they haven't heard from their partner in a few hours, they might start texting or calling repeatedly. In some cases, they might even criticize their partner or become overly fawning to make sure that they stay engaged. It's all a way to cope with the underlying fear of abandonment, even if it feels overwhelming to the other person. People with an anxious, preoccupied attachment style often have certain, expectations in relationships, and some can feel unrealistic to the people that they're sharing a relationship with. So they might do things like expect their partner to soothe their emotions all the time. If they're upset, they might expect their partner to step in and fix it because they don't always feel equipped to regulate their own feelings. Another expectation is that their partner should provide certainty at all times. This means that if something feels off in the relationship, even just something as simple as like an unexpected change in plans, it might make them anxious, feeling like the stability of the relationship is being threatened. Then there's also the belief that their partner should read their mind or always know how they're feeling. They might even feel hurt if their partner doesn't immediately pick up on their emotional cues. And because they fear being misunderstood, they often expect their partner to be the one responsible for meeting all their emotional needs. They might also feel that the relationship should be the highest priority in both partners' lives. This can include things like expecting frequent romantic gestures or even grand displays of affection. They need constant reminders that they are loved and that the relationship is secure. So that basically describes the anxious preoccupied attachment style and the common characteristics and details that really, I guess, put those people into a certain group. So I hope everybody found value in this today. If you enjoyed this or if you find it relatable, I'd love to know. So please like my video or add a comment in. Also, if you have any questions, I'd be more than happy to answer those for you as well as any suggestions for like upcoming videos that you'd be interested in. I also do webinars, and so if we get some really good requests, I might even turn them into webinars. So thank you again, everybody, so much for joining me today, and I can't wait to get into more on these topics with you guys in the future. Ciao!